Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is so incredible. I feel the love. I feel the love where I am. And I'm so honored and I'm so grateful to be here to talk about one of my favorite subjects. This is going to be a very interactive session. I can clearly see the interactiveness in the chat box. So I urge you, let us continue talking even as we have this discussion. Ask as many questions as you can, be very engaging so that we can have a seamless experience and a wonderful experience at that. We're here to have fun, we're here to learn, and we're here to learn from each other, not just from me, but also from each and every one of you. So ask us many questions. Let me not leave you behind. So if you don't understand anything, please feel free to engage me as we go so that at the end of it all, we are able to achieve the objectives that we have. And I'm so grateful. I was going through the chat box even as the introductions were going on, and I see a couple of people from different countries. Some from my home country, Kenya. Today's such a beautiful day, and it's clearly everyone is having a very wonderful day, and we pray that we're going to have it a good rest of the day. For those who are in the morning hours, in the afternoon, in the evening, we're going to end the day greatly. So allow me to share my screen so that we can start.
Before you share your screen, ma'am, I just wanted to have an interaction with you just for 2 minutes. So concerning money, this is just a very simple question. It's just a very simple question about money and about the different myths we have about money. Before you go into your discussion, it's just about the different ideology we have about money. And which of them is okay. That the first ideology I'm thinking right now is, well, I don't really need so much money because Africa is not so secure and I don't want to be kidnapped. That's one. The second one I think I have is, well, I think if I gamble more, I can have more money because gambling is a very good way of having money. And the third one I have, which is more like a perception, it's more like, I don't really think I need so much money. I just need enough to keep myself and my family going. And the fourth one is that, you know what, I don't have what it takes to have so much money. So I don't want so much money. So which of them is okay? The gambling, the insecurity, which of them is okay? I don't have what it takes. Just tell me which of them is okay and which of them is not okay. Then we can start our session. Thank you, ma'am.
Here's the thing when you talk about money, because there'll always be these ideologies in the society that more or less we have been ascribed to conform to in one way or another, due to peer pressure, due to community mindset and whatnot. But the thing is, and this is what we do at Centonomy, we try and go down to the basics, the mindset. That's where the answer lies. So yes, I want to be wealthy. It's very much okay for you to be wealthy. You have to do that in unscrupulous ways. No, there are so many legal ways that you really need to be smart around in order for you to generate wealth. There are so many ways that you can be able to work around it. But there's an element of risk, which again goes back to the mindset. So do you have the capacity to mitigate the risks that come with wealth creation activities that you're going to be engaging with? And these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about in the course of this conversation that we are having today. So how do you build that capacity so that over and above everything that will come your way in your pursuit of wealth creation, how do you have a mitigation plan to it and also a contingency plan to it? Because there are so many factors that are beyond us. Something, for example, in Kenya, there's a bit of protests that were happening this week, and we're expecting more next week. So this could alter some of the activities that probably a couple of people are engaging in the process of their wealth creation. So how do you have a contingency plan to handle some of these things? Because there's a bit of political instability here. There's also the economic factors, the monetary factor. How are you able to also understand yourself from the scope of inflation? Some of these things that are beyond you, but you really have to interact with them in one way or another for you to be able to generate your wealth. So it goes back to the mindset and building a mitigation to handle the risks that come with it. So yes, however you want to look at it, that's up to you, because we are all here to learn. This is adult education. But the thing is, at some point, you just have to shift your mindset. And actually, that's our mission as Autonomy. We shift mindset so that purposeful people can be able to create wealth and live abundantly. So we believe it is very possible for you to create wealth and live abundantly, but you have to be very purposeful. Purposeful in a way that you are positive in that course, and also you're not engaging in any illegal activities, because at the end of the day, yeah, we really have to be good people. That's what we advocate for.
Wow. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot just for one question. Thank you so much, ma'am. So we can go into the meeting for today on the topic.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll just build upon what you've just asked me and what we have just talked about here, because these are some of the conversations that we are going to have in the course of this presentation. So while I share my screen, I want you to think about your definition of wealth. So if someone asks you, what is your definition of wealth? What is wealth to you? And I want to see that in the chat box. As many of you, please just let me know, when you think about wealth, what is your definition of wealth? Let me see that in the chat box as I share my screen, so that we can maximize on the time that we have and learn as much as we can. So let me see that in the chat box. What is your definition of wealth? If you're able to do that, if you want to unmute, please just raise your hands. The panelists will be able to unmute you and you can give us your definition of wealth. I want this to be a very interactive session. I want this to be a very engaging session. So when I ask a question, please feel free to just answer me in the chat box. If you want us to hear your voice, you can raise your hand. We will unmute you and you will give us your opinion. So what is your definition of wealth? We are here to talk about money. We are here to talk about everything and anything that you need to know about money. We are here to talk about the principles of wealth creation. So even as we think about these things, what is wealth? I want to ask this introspective question, because wealth is very personal. My definition of wealth is very different from yours. So I see someone has raised their hand. Maybe they want to give us their answer. If they could be unmuted, we would love to hear them. So I see a couple of people in the chat box, even as we unmute Harrison. So Timothy, you're saying, for you, wealth is property owned by someone, either cash or assets. So you haven't made that personal. So someone else, not you. Okay. So Dida, you're saying, for you, wealth is the sum total of my valuable possessions and resources. All right. So let's see a couple of other people. Harrison, are you able to speak now?
Yes. Can you all get me?
Yes. We can hear you.
Thank you. For me, I see wealth as the state of being physically, spiritually, and psychologically fit.
So yours is very holistic, physically, psychologically.
Yes,
Please continue.
psychologically and spiritually fit to be able to do whatever you want to do. Then to me, you are wealthy.
Okay. All right. And you're very right. You're very right. I said your definition of wealth is very personal. So it doesn't have to be like the other person. And we're here to talk about building a money mindset in Africa. So whatever you know about wealth, it could be right, it could be wrong, but we are here to understand what are some of these basic principles that we need to have, and how can we shift our mindset so that we are able to have an abundant mindset that will catapult us to a point where we are building wealth. So I see a couple of people have engaged me in the chat box. So Stephen, you're saying wealth is riches and valuable possession. Elvis, you're saying life is wealth. That's very true. Alido, you're saying wealth is having all the things making life much easier. Shadrach, you're saying wealth is the information you have and your mindset. So even Shadrach says the mindset that you have, that is wealth. You see how dynamic our definitions are. But I want us to agree on one thing so that we can use that in the course of our presentation today. So autonomy is a financial education company, just to give you a bit of background context. So what we do is we train and we advise people on matters of personal financial management and entrepreneurship. So we have people who want to understand everything and anything to do with money, from having it, growing it, protecting it, and how can we collectively as a community leverage on our togetherness to build wealth. So investment groups per se, in Kenya we call them chamas. So how can we leverage on this unique concept in our pursuit of wealth creation? And we have a couple of other people who are in business, and some of them could be here. So if you ascribe to that kind of track, we have people who are probably starting out in their business journey, have been in that business journey for a couple of time. Others have established businesses. So what we do is we walk them through certain principles that they need to incorporate in their businesses so that they can build sustainable businesses. So anything, for example, the entrepreneurial mindset, I'm going to be very key on the mindset thing, because whatever you perceive, you conceive. So everything has to start from your mind. So if you have an abundant mindset, then you're able to actually do very well in whatever thing that you're actually focusing on. So the entrepreneurial mindset, we talk about strategy and structure. We talk about human-centered design, which is actually design thinking for some of you, if you know, a people-centered approach of doing business. We come and talk about fear and vision, because in any case, in our pursuit of anything, if you're going into the unknown, there's that bit of fear. We have the vision, but there's that bit of fear. So how then do we get ourselves to a point where we are able to eliminate the fear? Yes, we feel the fear, yes, but we do it anyway, because that's the thing that will motivate us and will push us to the next level. We talk about working capital, we talk about raising capital, we talk about investments, we talk about insurance, tax, basically everything that encompasses a business. So I serve there as the head of training, meaning my main role is to put people like you in front of experts, myself included, and we walk through the pain points of you as an individual when it comes to personal financial management, and also your business if you are in entrepreneurship. So having said that, you can be able to clearly just understand what our mission is. So at Centonomy, our mission is to, just like I've said, shift mindset so that purposeful people can create wealth and live abundantly. I want to see again in the chat box. I said this will be a very engaging session. Do you think this is possible? If you introspect, if you recalculate, if you reevaluate yourself and what you know about money and what you know about wealth, do you believe it's possible for you to create wealth and live abundantly? Do you believe that this is very possible? Just say yes. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know we are together. Do you believe this is possible? So Adaobi, you're saying yes. So everyone else, yes, 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 yes. Alidi, you're saying yes, yes. So I see a couple of us are saying yes, and it's very possible, and we should be able to see it by the end of this class, by the end of this presentation, how possible it is for you to shift that mindset, start operating from an abundant mindset, so that if you're a purposeful person, then you provoke that bit of purposefulness, and then now you start in your journey of wealth creation, and you get to live an abundant life. So how do we get ourselves to this point? So I'm going to be giving us a couple of principles. And before we get there, let us look at how Centonomy defines wealth. So I've seen a lot of definition in the chat box, and let me say, all of you are very right. Your definition of wealth is very personal. But at Centonomy, this is how we define wealth. So wealth to us is the ability to live the lifestyle that you want without having work. And there are a couple of words there that are in bold. The word ability is in bold. We have the word without in bold, and we have the word work in bold, So the ability, meaning you have to build a habit that gets you to a point where you're able to live the lifestyle that you want. That's why I said it's very personal. So if life is wealth, so how does life look like for you financially when you look at it from the perspective of wealth? So if your definition of wealth is from the spiritual realm, how does it look like to you financially? Because when you're talking about money, you have to tie something to a financial cost. That's how you know whether it's making sense or not. So we don't want to be very superficial. We don't want to be very abstract. We want to be very direct, and we have to be very strict in our definition of wealth. So how do we do this? It is by purchasing assets that will support your lifestyle. For example, as Kathleen, my lifestyle could probably cost me about 200,000 Kenya shillings every month. So all my expenses for the month could be that in order for me to live probably a very comfortable life, I have to spend to a tune of about 200,000 Kenya shillings. So how do I get assets that will give me 200,000 Kenya shillings every month in a way that I don't have to wake up every morning to work so that I can get this 200,000 Kenya shillings? And that is what we want to see. How do we get to that point? What mindset do we need to encompass? What kind of principles do we need to understand? What kind of network do we need to get ourselves into? What kind of habits do we need to unlearn? Because let's just be honest, we haven't started talking about money recently. In one way or another, we have interacted with the concept of wealth right from when we were little, from looking at our folks talking about money, from churches, from the community, from our friends. There's a bit of information that you have about wealth that you have gotten from different places. So what are some of those things that you need to unlearn? Because these things could be hindering you when you want to generate wealth in your own accord. So we want to look at some of these things so that at the end of this training, you're able to understand these principles, you're able to understand the habits and the skills that you need to have so that you can be able to build wealth. So if you understand this, I want you to put a pin on this because you're going to go back to it later on in the presentation. So now I want us to do an exercise. Like I said, when we talk about money, we have to be very practical. There has to be a financial cost to everything that we are doing so that we can clearly understand what we need to do, what we need to learn, what information, what knowledge we need to have so that we are able to be in a side that will not disadvantage us in one way or another when it comes to wealth creation. So if you're seeing my screen, so there are pillars over there from January to December. So we have pillar for January, we have pillar for February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. So I want us to imagine, introspect, and that's a word I will use so many times here. So I want us to introspect. So the income that you get, wherever you're getting your income from, whether it could be from a salary, it could be from a side hustle, whatever activity you're doing to get your income, I want you to look at it as a percentage, 100%. So if you're getting probably 100,000 Kenya shillings, so I want you to imagine 100,000 Kenya shillings, January, February, March, April, May, up until which is the 10th month, October, And then because I'm very generous, I've given you a 20%, is it a 20% raise, or I've given you 2 extra months so that we can look at it holistically, like in a whole year. So I want us to do this practically. So I'll be asking you a series of questions so that you can get the concept that I want to disseminate here. So once you get your salaries, for the people that have salaries, there's a bit of it that is deducted. Yes or no? Just let me see in the chat box. So if you have agreed with your, so if you have agreed with your employer, for example, my income will be 100,000 shillings. Do you get 100,000 shillings at the end of the month? No. So there's a bit that's usually deducted. So what's the first thing that is deducted? What is usually deducted? Let me see that also in the chat box. Once you look at your payslip, what are those things that are usually deducted? I want to see tax, yes. Housing levy, pay, NHIF. Dida, you must be Kenyan. You're very specific in your in your submission. Yes. So this is what is usually deducted. And tax is what percent? What percent is tax? So if tax is the first thing that they deduct, ideally, averagely, we can use Kenya as an analogy at this point. What percentage do they tax? What percentage is tax? I want to see. If you want to unmute, please unmute. If you have a question up until this point, please let me know. If you haven't understood, please also let me know. I don't want to leave you behind. I want you to understand this principle and I want you to understand this concept. So Timothy, you're saying 30%. So if you're looking at it, if you're using Kenya as an analogy, and I would probably suggest that we do so, yes, it's usually 30%, meaning January, February, March, that's not your money. That's not your money, that's the government's money. So right now we are in June. So January, February, and March, you are working for the government. If you're using Kenya as an analogy. So all these pillars represent 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. All right. So 30%, January, February, March, you are working for the government. That wasn't your money, but you are still spending. You are still probably paying your rent. If you're in school, you're probably paying school fees. If you have kids, yes, you are taking care of the kids, including school fees for them as well. But January, February, March, that is not your money. So 30% has gone. What's the next thing? So we've paid our dues. If we were getting 100, yes, Dida, you're very right. Depends on the income bracket because the tax regimes are progressive. You are very right, yes. But for purposes of learning, let us work with the 30%. All right. So January, February, March, you are working for the government. So what's the next thing? You are probably earning 100,000. So probably 70,000 has hit your account at the end of the month. So what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What do we pay next? Let us be introspective. Let us evaluate this. What do you pay next? So the tax has been deducted. What do we pay next? If you want to unmute, please unmute. If you want pension, health insurance, what do we pay next? Because these are bills that we have to take care of, whether we like it or not. These are things that we need to take care of in order for us to live the lifestyle that we want. These are things that we need to take care of. Remember the definition of wealth? I told you to put a pin on that because you're always going to go back to that in the course of the training. So I see a couple of people who have been able to. So I do have a tag teamer, Waire. I think they could be able to help with the inquiries that are coming in to me. Please assist on that other side. So I see a couple of people.
Okay, sorry. What do you want me to do exactly?
No, I'm saying there's a tag teamer using the same name, Centonomy 101. They could be able to help with. I see there's an inquiry to help with sign language interpretation, to allow sign language interpretation on her video. So the tag teamer should be able to help even as I proceed.
Hi, Kate.
All right. So don't worry, you will be assisted. The tag teamer is there to help. All right.
Hi,
so I see a
Kathleen.
couple of people. Hi.
Please make me
Malvin,
host
how
so
are
that
you?
I'm good, thank you. Please make me host so that I can assist in the other those duties.
Oh,
Perfect.
okay. Let me see.
I think Malvin, you should be able to claim host.
Okay, let me do that. No problem. You just continue.
Yeah. Yes, please claim host. All right. All right. So as we proceed, so I see a couple of people have been able to put that in the chat box. So I see investments and personal use, house rent, property rates. I see health insurance, pension, bills. Shadrach, you're saying bills. What kind of bills? I'm curious to hear from you if you can. What do you mean by bills? What are these bills? If you are to put them on a list, what do you mean by bills? If you're able to speak, please let me know. If you're able to speak, please let me know. So I see Eric, you're saying property rates. Dida, you said it's supposed to be savings. Akobi, you're saying debt. So already we are in debt. You have seen that we are already in debt. Yeah. You have seen that we are already in debt. Malvin, please allow me to share my screen. Please make me co-host. So Shadrach, are you able to unmute? Or do you want to explain yourself in the chat box? I am curious to hear what you mean by bills. What are these bills? So, okay, I see you in the chat box. Light, water. Let me just share my screen so that we can move on swiftly. If you can see my screen, please let me know. Malvin, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. So Shadrach, I see in the chat box you're saying light, water. What other bills? Because we want to see where is our money, because we are just paying people. We have paid the government. We have bills, just like you have said, bills that we need to take care of. So Kaminta Paul, you're saying, first of all, I think it all depends on how your country is and how much you earn as an individual. Yes, you're very right. When we started doing this activity, we used an analogy for easier coherency purposes. So we said, imagine you're earning 100,000 every month, and we said we're going to use Kenya as a context so that we can be able to disseminate the principle effectively. So if you're earning 100,000, and the pillars here, let me just go back, and the pillars here. So we had January, February, March, April, all the way to December. So each pillar represents 10%, all right? So 10%, 10%, 10%. So your 100,000 will probably end at October per se. And then I've added you 2 more months, November and December, so that you can look at it holistically now. So the first thing in Kenya, what happens is when you receive your salary, if that is your gross, if your 100 is your gross, you don't get the 100,000 in your account. There's some deductions that are made. So in Kenya, averagely, it is usually 30%. So if you're earning 100 gross, you'll probably get 70,000 if there are no more deductions that you're getting, all right? But we have other responsibilities, because when we talked about our definition of wealth, we said it is the ability, and we had a couple of words in bold. The word ability, and we said this is where you cultivate a habit that gets you to a point where you're building wealth, good habits, the skills, the mindset that you're going to have, the ability to live the lifestyle that you want, meaning it has to be very personal. And when we were starting, I asked, what is your definition of wealth? My definition of wealth is very different from yours. So while you introspect, whatever I feel I will get and say I am wealthy, that is my definition of wealth. Yours could be different, So what is your definition of wealth? So the ability is involved to live the lifestyle that you want, meaning you need to know what you want without is another word that is involved, without having to work. Work is also another word that is involved. So we want to get ourselves to a point where we don't have to wake up every morning to work in order for us to make money that will support our lifestyle. When we talk about wealth, we are not being myopic at it. We want to build generational wealth, wealth that we can transfer even to our children, so that we give them a silver lining while they come into this world and while they interact with the complexities of this world. So we are looking at it from that perspective. We want to build wealth, generational wealth. So what is it that we need to do? And we said it is by purchasing assets that will support the lifestyle that we want, and we will not have to wake up every day, so that we can be able to make money. And I gave an example. If per se Kathleen spends about 200,000 per month in order for her to live comfortably, if my lifestyle is worth 200,000 per month, then I need to invest, to purchase investment vehicles that give me at least 200,000 Kenya shillings every month, so that I can live comfortably and I don't need to wake up every morning and go to work. So that is what we were talking about. So we are doing an exercise to see, because when you talk about money, there has to be a financial cost to it. We have to look at it not superficially. We don't want to deal with speculative assumptions. I think, I believe. No, we want to look at it in a practical way, so that we can understand where is our money. All right. So in your screen, that is why now we had the P, that is why we had the pillars. All right. Just a minute. Let me just. So I'm back. So that is what we were doing right now. All right. So we were trying to do this exercise to understand where is our money, because we are working so hard for this money. We want to enjoy this money. So tax has been deducted 30%. So what is the next thing? Ideally, it will be your rent. You know, those essentials, you know, because when you look at a budget, you have to be very realistic about it. Those essentials, it could be your rent, it could be your health insurance, you know, it could be school fees, things that you really have to take care of every single month. So usually what percentage is rent? If each pillar here is 10%, 10%, 10%, so what percentage is rent? So if you're earning 100,000, ideally, how much should be your rent? Let me see that in the chat box. So if you're earning 100,000, 70,000 hits your account, how much should be your rent? So you see, Shadrach, you said light, water, rent, insurance. Yes. So those are the bills that we're talking about. And we want to see, and I want to communicate something. So I want to get your idea of us doing this exercise, because I need to communicate something very important at the end of this activity. So we are paying 25,000 for rent. So 25,000 is actually 25%. So meaning April is gone, May is gone, and a bit of June. All right. Yes, Betty, you're very right. The rent depends on the kind of house you rent. So I said ideally, if you're earning 100,000 shillings, 30% has been deducted. You have 70,000 in your account. All right. How much should you pay rent? If you're being logical, how much should you pay rent? So you said 20,000. So that's about 20%. So we've removed April and May. We haven't still we're still paying people, and May has gone, so we are in June. So after we've paid rent, we probably need to pay school fees. So that's another 10%. All right. After that, now we probably need to send money back home, because black tax is a very big thing. in Africa. Everyone here is probably sending money to someone back in the village. Even in Kenya, majority of the people who are working are sending money back to people in the village. So that is something that you have to do. So that's usually probably about 10%. All right. For the people who are believers, we are usually advised probably 10% of your income should go into tithe or into charity. All right. So that's another 10% that has gone. All right. We also need to pay say for example, because in life we can't just be very serious all the time. We want to travel, we want to buy good things for ourselves, we want to buy clothes, we want to look good, we want to go have fun with our friends. So that's probably another 20%. All right, and we haven't even saved. All right, there are other things that we need to take care of. For example, we have to probably pay school fees for our kids. We probably have to do something here and there. We probably have to pay internet, the utilities, the bills that Shadrach is talking about. So that would probably be another 10%, and so on and so forth. So ideally, most of us, we are spending money that we don't have, because the money that we are getting is going to other places and we forget ourselves. So even the bit of saving, and you remember when we were talking about the definition of wealth, we need to purchase these assets that will support our lifestyle. All right. So now, if we are not saving, if we are not investing, and by the way, there's a difference between saving and investing. So if you're putting all your money in a bank account, you're not investing, you are saving. And that money could definitely be used for as an emergency fund. So do not say that you have invested, you have not, you are actually saving. So saving is usually for two reasons, for security and for accessibility. So while you're building an emergency fund is a pool of funds that support you in the case of emergencies. All of us, for example, were hit by COVID. So the people that were able to survive during those COVID times are people who had set aside money that will support them during this emergency time. It could be also something like sickness, there's a saying that goes, most people are actually one sickness away from getting into poverty. So people try to buy themselves out of poverty by setting up an emergency fund, because at some point you'll need to spend huge amounts of money so that you're able to be healthy. So that is what is usually put in an account, in a bank account. And if you're smart, you'll probably put it in a money market, as long as it's secure and as long as it's easily accessible. That if you need your money now, you can get your money now or tomorrow. They usually say 24 to 72 hours. So that's something that you should be able to do. Now, investing is purchasing assets. You're purchasing assets. So if you're going the paperless investing way, that's where now we talk about the bonds, we talk about the treasury bills, we talk about this kind of things. If you're going the property or real estate way, now we talk about land, we talk about rentals. If you're going towards other ways, now we look at it from that point, and there has to be something called a true balance. Remember the questions that Waire was talking about before we started. There's an element of risk to all this. So you need to understand what your true balance is. Are you a conservative investor? Are you a moderate investor? Or are you an aggressive investor? So that if you understand this, the moment you get to sit down with a fund manager, there are a series of questions that you will ask that will guide you to know, where do I put my money? Because if you're putting your money in crypto and you do not have the capacity to mitigate the risks that come with that kind of investing, then you're better off somewhere else, So you need to understand. And there's also the bit of not putting all your money in one basket. So there are investment vehicles that cut across board. For example, a bond is something that can give you income, and a bond is something that can grow your money. So it takes care of two things, So there are things that you need to understand. And I'll show you in the course of the presentation, how do you now get to think like an investor? Because again, we have to change our mindset. What we know about money, what we know about wealth, now we have to put ourselves in the shoes of people who have been able to make it, people who have been able to generate wealth, and how they've been able to do it. So in this class, I want to give you 3 principles. That is my goal for today. These principles are universal, and we usually say the principles of personal financial management remain the same. So if you're able to understand these principles, then you are well on in your journey of wealth creation. So the first principle that I will give you is pay yourself first. So if you have a pen, if you can be able to write it down, if you can be able to take a mental note, that's still okay. But please don't forget this. Principle number 1, pay yourself first. And I want to see in the chat box, what do you think I mean when I say pay yourself first? What do you think I mean when I say pay yourself first? Please let me see that in the chat box. What do I mean when I say pay yourself first? If you can unmute, please raise your hand. You will be assisted. I want to see that in the chat box. I said this will be a very engaging session. I want you to ask as many questions as possible, because if you don't get these principles, then you will not be in any wealth creation journey. I am sorry to tell you that, but that is the truth. I said the principles of personal financial management are all the same, universally. So if you're able to understand these principles, then you will be able to get yourself on the journey of wealth creation in a way that is sustainable and in a way that will be able to grow, you know. So Timothy, you're saying first priority. Santi, you're saying savings. Timothy, you're saying prudence. Not sure what you mean by that. Akobi, you're saying look good, be healthy by buying some things that enables you to work. Okay, all right. So what I mean by this is, you see the way we did that exercise, and the first thing that we removed from our money was the tax, you know. So that's something that we can't run away from. We have to pay taxes in order for us to enjoy the systems in our country. So once you have sorted the government, now I want you to put yourself first, all right? Pay. Always make sure that you're putting aside money for saving and you're putting aside money for investing, all right? You're putting aside money for investing and you're putting aside money for saving. You have to do that concurrently. As I said, don't put money in your bank account and say you're investing. No, you are just saving. And you know, the thing is, if you look at the interest rates for the banks, they are very low. And what we do is, in investing, you have to purchase assets that grow at a rate that is higher than the rate of inflation in your country. Like now for Kenya, the rate of inflation is about 7%. So if you're Kenyan and you're putting your money in a place that's probably giving you less than 7%, then you're losing money. You're losing money. Your money is losing value. So when we talk about investing, we want to put money in a place that is growing at a rate that is higher than 7%. All right. Savings, I said, is for emergency. You need that money quickly. And you need money to buy, for example, the shoes, as long as it is in the budget. If it is in the budget and you know, yes, I need to spend this money in this month, yes, I need to make sure that it is accessible for me. So that's what I mean. If you can put this, write this down, please write it. If you can take a mental note, please put it down. Pay yourself first. Make sure you're saving and make sure you're investing. All right. So Shadrach is saying, in order to know how much you spend and how to save money. So here's the thing. When it comes to investing, I can't come as an FA, as a financial advisor, and as autonomy, we can't come and tell you put 20%. Why? Again, we go back to the definition of wealth. Do you remember how we defined wealth? The ability to live the lifestyle that you want without having to work. I don't know what your lifestyle is. So I can't come and tell you put 20%. This is me just misinforming you. I can't come and tell you put 10%. You know what you want. I don't know what you want. So at Autonomy, what we do, we call it goal-based investing. You see those definitions you gave me about wealth. If one of your definitions is to have land, is to have property, all right? That is your goal. You work backwards, because at that point, it is very ambiguous. It is very blurry. You just see the rental property, but there's some work that needs to be done to get you to that point. You have to build a roadmap and tie that roadmap to a financial cost. And let me tell you something, when it comes to investing, there are two things that you cannot eliminate. There's the cost and there's the time. So even as you're thinking about rental property as one of your definitions for wealth, when do you want to achieve this? You'll probably say in the next 10 years, all right? How much will it cost me to achieve this? It will probably cost me X million shillings, all right? So now that I know those two things, I have the money that I need to have, and I have the time that I'm working with, then it will be very easy for you to build a strategy that gets you to that point. It will be very easy for you to know and understand what investment vehicle should I purchase that will get me to that point. It will be very easy for you to know, do I build that rental property or do I buy one that is already built? It will be very easy for you to know what kind of network do I need to have right now that will help me get to that point. Because you never have to work in isolation. In your journey of wealth creation, you're always entangled with people who help you. We call them destiny connectors. These are people who know people who will be able to help you get to that point. So it's very simple, but very complex at the same time. You just have to separate, all right? So pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. So Eric, you're saying it's a personal finance strategy of increase and consistent savings and investment while also promoting frugality. True, true, true. All right. So don't save only, do them concurrently. You save and you invest. So if we have the 70,000, then we'll probably say 10,000 I want to put it here, 10,000 I want to put it here, or 5,000 here, 15,000 here. And those figures are dependent on what is your goal. So the percentages that you put aside for savings and the percentages that you put aside for investing, they have to be goal-based. Goal-based investing is what we advocate for. So anyone else could probably say put 20%, put 30%, but as Autonomy, we advocate for goal-based investing. All right. So I want us to do another exercise here, because now this will give us an understanding of how much are you worth. Because we've seen we're spending money that we don't have. We are probably in debt at this point. We've even spent money that we haven't even earned yet, the November and December. So that one we haven't even earned, but we have already spent it. So how much are we worth per hour? Because this one will give us an understanding of, are we using our time wisely? Or are we doing things that could sabotage us in the quest of wealth creation? All right. So I want you, this one you don't have to put in the chat box. So after this, I want you to go home in your quiet place, whatever income you get at the end of the month. If you're a salaried person, I want you to divide, and you probably work 8 hours a day, and you go to the office maybe Monday and Friday. I want you to take the gross amount that you have agreed with between you and the employer, divide by the number of hours that you work in that month. All right. So for example, in Kenya, we work 160 hours a month. So this person who's earning 100K, so this person will take 100,000 divided by 160. So they'll be able to understand, okay, so this is how much I am worth per hour. All right. This now will provoke that discussion and will help you introspect. So any hour you spend, any time you waste, this could be used into your wealth creation journey. So it will help you get to a point where now you start thinking and you start now looking at it from the scope of, am I using my time wisely? Because when we talk to wealthy people and when we have these discussions, even as an organization, most of these people who have been able to build wealth, they usually don't have time. They are very busy people, and not just busy for the sake of being busy. Their calendars are usually blocked. In order for you to even have time with them, you really have to start looking for them almost 3 months before, so that you are able to get even an hour with them. So these are people who are using their time wisely. And at Autonomy, we usually say it's you buying yourself time. Because now, if you're busy right now and you're doing something, you will be getting yourself, unknowingly, you'll be getting yourself into a habit that gets you to that point, where now you are always doing something that will get you to that point of wealth creation. Yeah. So Stephen, you're saying it's just because of the currency difference, the dollar. Okay, thank you. No worries, no worries. We shall use that. We shall use that. No worries. All right. So I want you to think about this today. You know, if you have 10 minutes to spare, if you have, just think about how much are you worth per hour, and are you using this time wisely? You know, because we have to behave like these people who have built wealth. We have to start embodying them. We have to think like they think. We have to act like they act, because we need to build that ability. And I said you put a pin on that definition of wealth, because that will guide you always in your wealth creation journey. So now, here's my question. So what do you spend time on? You know, in this era of social media, this is something that you don't need to answer me. This is something that you just have to think and introspect. And there's no wrong and there's no right answer. The lifestyle that you want is very personal. You need to know, you know. So I want us to do something here. At Autonomy, we call it image versus wealth creation. So I'm going to ask a question. So there are two images here. So which one would you prefer? Let me see that in the chat box. Would you prefer? So in the screen, there's a man with a very nice suit, looks very collected, looks very clean, looks very smart. And then there's another one on the same screen, looks like a handyman, does a lot of hands-on activities, probably dirty. The clothes will probably be dirty most times of the day. They'll probably be injuring themselves here and there. They're carrying tools. These are people who, this is someone who probably works in a construction site. So which one would you prefer? If you were to live the life of one of them, who would you pick? Let me see that in the chat box. Is it the man in the suit or the man with the yellow helmet? Let me see that in the chat box. And if you can unmute, please do and tell us why. So Justin, you're saying the engineer. So you've even given this person a a career, all right. So Justin, you're saying the engineer. Who would you pick? Well, I asked that question, I want you to think about the kind of cars that these people drive. For the man in black probably drives a very expensive car. The one with the helmet probably just drives something that works, you know. So Timothy, you're saying the one with the suit. Someone has deleted their their submission. Eric, you're saying the engineer. I want to see more responses. Feel free to unmute if you want to. Just raise your hand. You will be granted that unmute, and you can be able to hear you. So Shadrach is saying the one in a suit. All right. So how many for engineer? So we have Justin, we have Eric. So 2, the one in a suit. So far we have Timothy, we have Shadrach. We have 2. So basically 3 for engineer. Adaobi. So we are at par. We are like this. Adaobi, the one in a suit. So 3 people want to be in a suit. There are other 3. They want to be they want to be in the construction. So Mel, you're saying they all sell depending on their career. Yes. So I'm asking, if you were to choose to live the life of one person here, who would you want? So Stephen, you're saying suit. So we have 3 for engineer, suit is 4. So we have Akobi, you're saying the man in the yellow helmet, because I say he solved problems and ready to serve, despite some of us wanting to be the man in the suit who may be termed as a leader. The guy in the helmet is good because he is ready to serve. Okay, interesting. The ones that said engineer, why would you want to be engineer? Let me see that in the chat box. So there was Shadrach, no, Betty, you said engineer. Eric, you said engineer. Justin, you said engineer. Why engineer? I am curious to listen to the reason. Why would you want to be the man, the engineer, and not the man in the suit? And if you said the man in the suit also, please let me know why. I see Shadrach, you said, Amel, you said suit. Tiffin, you said suit. Adaobi, you said suit. Why? Why would you want to be the man in a suit? And not the engineer. And if you said engineer, why the engineer? I want to see the reasons behind your decisions. Why the man in the suit, and also if you said engineer, why? And I want you to imagine the lifestyle that these people have. So the man in the suit is probably in between meetings, probably the whole day, meeting big people, having very expensive lifestyle, food. The suit is probably very expensive, The engineer, normal clothes, even the shoes, normal clothes, spend most of their time working probably in a construction site, just working, and they're meeting people in the same career. So people who, yes, would help him grow, but probably not as much. So let us see the reasons. So Shadrach, you're saying suit because I will not work by direct people to work for me. Okay. Betty, you say you want to work to keep on earning more money. All right. Amel, you're saying suit because I must reflect my business. All right. Akobi, you're saying moreover, the guy in helmet has more peace of mind. Why do you think the man in a suit does not have peace of mind? I am curious. Akobi, are you able to unmute? Philemon, if you can, I am curious to hear why. Why does the man in a helmet, why does he have, because he works smartly in addition to working hard. He gets to network, invest, and get his money to work for him long after he retires. So that's where the piece. Okay, no, just raise your hand. If you want to unmute, just raise your hand, and the panelists will be able to unmute you to be able to speak. So don't worry. So if you feel like you want to speak, just raise your hand and you will be assisted. So Eric, you're saying.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I can say the guy in helmet is kind of have more peace of mind because he's serving. He's serving. He does not own a business yet. There is like a civil servant. You get it? There is no the only pressure he has is just to get his salary. Why the guy in suit may be living in debt. Yeah, you get it. Maybe living in debt. Maybe. Yes, that's what I mean.
Okay, I get it. All right.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. So Eric, you're saying to be an engineer is because you can do a lot of work to get more money and later live luxury lifestyle. So the reason why I'm asking this question is more often than not, there's something that goes on. There's a narrative. There's a kind of I call them molds that are ascribed to us in the community that we unknowingly ascribe to. All right. And you're very right, Philemon. So you'll find the man in a suit is in huge debt because they're trying to look a certain way. In fact, in Kenya, if you're this kind of person, we usually call you mkurugenzi or mheshimiwa, meaning honorable, and this is a word or a name that will boost your ego, and you feel very important, but it's just because of the way you're dressed. Ideally, this kind of people, they usually don't have peace of mind. You're very right, because they are in debt. They're not trying to be themselves. More or less, they live fake lives, because they're trying to impress and they're trying to get themselves in positions where they don't have the capacity to handle themselves in that position. So I'm not saying you should not be the man in a suit. No, if it's convenient for you, if you can do it for a couple of, say, a year, get yourself in a room and then learn the tricks of the trade and then work smartly, then by all means do that. But it's usually very hard for you to separate yourself from the work and the fun and the funness that comes from you being the man in a suit. People will usually frown upon the engineer. You know, they'll see the dirty clothes, they'll not think that he has something incredible to even share in a meeting or in a boardroom kind of discussion. But usually these people are very smart when it comes to money. They understand some things about money that get them to embody a certain character, and we'll see. So you'll find the man in a suit will drive that kind of a car, you know, very nice car, very nice Range Rover, you know, but this will be their lifestyle. So they spend more as they earn more. So there's no end. There's no end at the end. So they spend more as they earn more. The more they earn, the more they spend, you know. So, and then they won't save, or if they're saving a little because they're trying to satisfy themselves or to justify why they need to live this kind of life. So when it comes to saving, when it comes to investing, they usually don't do this as much, you know. And then their instinct is to work and consume. So in order for them to sustain this, they just have to work because they spend more as they earn more. So if this person was probably earning 100K at some point and is now earning around $1 million at some point, so even their lifestyle increases like that. But now, because the lifestyle has increased, their instinct is to always work so that they can be able to satisfy that lifestyle. These are people who are working for a lifestyle. You know, you're always working for a lifestyle. So you're not purchasing assets that will help you or that will support you in driving that car. So that car could also even be something that has been purchased through asset financing. So you're paying a loan for something that's not bringing money into your pocket. We usually call them bad debts. So these are debts that are you get a loan, you invest in something that does not bring money back. And I'm not saying having your own car is a bad thing. It is very nice. Even me, I love driving my car. I feel nice when I drive my car. I feel nice when I do it. But if I'm paying a loan so that I can be able to drive this car, then it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all, at all, at all. And then these are people that have to work in order for them to eat. All right. And then for them, lifestyle starts off extravagant and reduces, because now you'll get to a point where now you realize what I'm doing is actually wrong, you know, and it gets to a point where you battle around it psychologically because you don't want to adjust. You don't want to adjust. So I see, Sunny, you have raised your hand. You should be able to be assisted and we should be able to hear you. So even as we wait for that, so we have the other point is these people are careless about time. So in money, there's something called time value of money. And this is a class that we have at Centonomy, where, for example, we get to look at the value of $1,000 right now. In the next 10 years, what that $1,000 would be valued as. And we do that using tables. We call them table 1, 2, and 3. So we'll sit down. If you come to me and tell me I want to invest $100,000 here, and I want it to be $10 million in the next 10 years, then now we'll sit down and see, is that really possible? Now what will be the value of $10 million in the next 10 years? And we do that mathematically. So there are tables that we use that will get us to understand what is the time value of money. And you remember when I talked about wealth, your greatest consideration should be time and should be the amount. The time and the amount. There has to be a financial cost to the goal that you want to achieve. So if your goal is to have 10 million shillings worth of assets, right? So now we get to understand what is the time value of money of what you want to start investing towards that goal today. Then now we have the engineer. So I'm using that because more often than not, the engineer, the farmers are all put in one group, you know. These are people that are usually frowned upon in most countries, even in Kenya. And then now you realize that these are people that are very smart, you know. So these people unknowingly, I don't know what happens to the mindset, because now there's that bit of more that you need to ascribe to in the society, you know. So these people will invest more as they earn more. The power of multiplication and saving is usually heavily engraved in their brains, in their heart. They're usually trying to see how can I multiply this money. So if they had like one cow, they will work so hard to buy another cow. They will add another animal like a sheep and whatnot. You know, these are people who will work extra hard to multiply what they have right now. So their instinct is to increase. They're always seeking to increase. And then through that now they're cultivating a habit that is getting them to a point where they are also unknowingly just creating assets, you know. By the time they realize the farmer has 100 cows, you know, the engineer probably has 10, 20 projects, because they're always trying to increase. Their instinct is to increase. And then now, when it comes to wealth creation, these assets now start paying them. So they probably invested in land. The land has appreciated in value. So now they can even sell the land and support the lifestyle that they want, or they can start building. So the assets now fund the lifestyle that they have. So you'll probably get to a point where this person, by the time they're retiring, they have huge tracts of land, they have a ranch, they have food that they are growing, so they are able to minimize expenses here and there. So for them, life starts off modest, for example, with one cow, and then it grows. So by the time they are realizing they have 100 per se, so these people understand the value of time, right? And their spending is driven by their personal values and their choices. In order for you to be this in this career, in this or in this spectrum, you just have to know what you value as a person, you know, and you're driven by that. But for this other one that was in a suit, most people, most often than not, their spending is driven by the opinion of others. You know, I said in Kenya we usually call them honorable. So if I come and call you honorable, you'll even buy me lunch, and probably that is money that you didn't have. So you'll probably go into debt to satisfy me just because I called you honorable. So there's that bit, and we're talking about building a money mindset. So whatever mindset that you need to have, please ensure this is the mindset. You are here with the farmers and the with the farmers and the engineers. You're there, you understand this, you are always seeking to multiply what you have. Your instincts and the habits that you're creating are geared towards multiplication. You know, you're building assets. Your assets are your lifestyle starts off modest, so you don't start from here and the money that you have is supporting a lifestyle that's here. No. So you're working in a very holistic way as you climb the ladder, and you understand the value of time. So that was point number one. Pay yourself first. So I want to give you principle number 2. Track your spending. Now, I want to ask a question here. How many of us track our spending? Like if you spend money, you write it down somewhere, or you have an app that you go and key in and say, today I've spent $100 here. How many of us do that? How many of us? Let me see that in the chat box. Philemon, you're saying more money makes some people to neglect others, but being the guy in helmet, everyone is a friend. That's another point. So I am asking a question. How many of us track our spending? Timothy, you're saying none. Timothy, do you track your spending? Do you take notes? Philemon, you're saying you were stopped by who? Who stopped you? I'm curious to hear who stopped you. Can we unmute Philemon to hear who stopped you? Yes, Amel, I will be sharing with you this presentation after this. Yes.
Actually, it
So,
was one of my habits
mhm,
before.
mhm,
That was when I left school. So
mhm,
because at that time, I became more independent of myself. So
mhm,
I was trying to keep track of how,
mhm,
let's say, they have been spending on me based on my school fees and upkeep,
mhm,
just things like that. So I was doing it
mhm,
every day that I turn out to make something. I was recording it while when I spend,
mhm,
I deduct on the Google Excel app. Yeah.
mhm.
So I was doing
Okay.
it as time went on. As I
Mhm,
let me say, as I was
mhm,
interacting with the society, I
mhm,
became distracted. I became distracted. It was just
mhm,
distraction. Yeah.
mhm. Okay. All right. So, if you look at wealthy people, they usually have these habits. When they go and purchase something, they ask for a receipt. Give me my receipt. I want my receipt. You know. And in Kenya, we have the M-Pesa. So M-Pesa has an analysis tab where you're able to understand what your monthly spending is and where your money is. Most of your money is actually going. So if it's black tax, you'll probably see in January I sent over 50% of my income to someone. So I wasn't able to put aside money for savings or for investing, you know. So wealthy people, this is what they do. They always track their spending. They always have somewhere to write. They'll ask for a receipt. They will key it down somewhere in their phone or take a mental note. They always, even that small money, that's $1. They're usually very tired or very triggered when they feel like you're trying to steal that $1 for them, you know. So these people value that thing of tracking their spending. They will ask for all these things all the time. So I see people here in the chat box. You saying you do, but you have to stop sometime. Chuma, you're saying you track your spending though. I am intrigued to know that an app exists for that. I didn't know there's an app. There are so many apps on Play Store, on Apple, so that you can be able to actually download and use them for your tracking. But we will be sharing with you a framework. We will be sharing it with you a framework that you can use. We call it the autonomy spending tracker. So this is something that you can start off with. Every expense that you incur, put that down because it will give you a mental picture of where your money is going. I said the principles of personal financial management are always the same. All the wealthy people do this, and today I'm going to give you three. So the first thing that they do is over and above them spending money aimlessly, like they've bought this car and or they've gone on vacation here, or they are putting money aside for charity and whatnot. They usually pay themselves first. So there's usually money that has been invested somewhere. And usually this money that they spend is the proceeds from the investment. So at no point are they using their capital to do that. These are the returns on the investments that they made that they're using to do that, you know. And the second thing that they do is they track their spending. So they'll put aside money. They'll ask for receipts. They'll write it down somewhere. They'll take a mental note. They usually have accountants. They'll usually probably do an audit, you know, and most of them they put their spending within the jurisdiction of an organization. So they'll probably be directors, and there is usually something called a director's account, or they'll pay themselves salary from their businesses. You know, they'll figure out somehow how to go about it so they're able to keep that mental note, or have just a personal accountant who will come and tell them, okay, so looking at your expenditure for the month, X has gone here, Y has gone there, and then now they are able to adjust as they grow wealth, you know. And we said we want to grow generational wealth. We want to have generational wealth. So this is something that they usually do. They usually track your spending. So after this, if you are not tracking your spending, I want you to do this. I urge you, please start tracking your spending. And at Autonomy, we will provide you with a framework, a tool that you can use. So over and above us sharing the presentation, we will also share with you the Autonomy spending tracker that you can use to track your spending. All right. So even as we move now with the presentation, I want us to talk about something called the time value of money. So Albert Einstein said once, compound interest is the greatest mathematical discovery of all time. All right. And I want us to do this practically because I've talked about time value of money, and I want you to see it in effect. All right. So if we are spending probably $150, so don't mind the slide has the catch in it. You have said we use dollars. So if you're spending $150 on something that we can eat, something that we can drink, every day you're probably at the office, or you're probably going about your day, you meet a friend, that is little money, come, let me buy you a cup of coffee, come, let me buy you lunch, So if you're spending this per day, I know it's not possible for you to be spending this every day, but ideally people can spend probably 90% of all the days in the year doing this, especially if it's very convenient. You're probably working where you can easily access this cup of tea or this cup of coffee or this lunch, or you're working in an environment where it's easier for you to buy other food. People are calling you honorable, so you're just tracking money here and there from your pockets into something that's not bringing value to you. So if you're flipping that, if you're paying yourself and say, so instead of me doing all this and wasting this money, if I invest this $150, so in this case, if I'm investing 150 each day in an investment vehicle that gives me 10% compounded interest annually over 10 years, this will be $1 million. All right, I'm using that cash because we've done the computation in our table 1, 2, and 3, the one that I had mentioned for time value of money. So in Kenya, for example, if you're spending 150 shillings every day, if you flip that and say, this 150 shillings, I'm going to invest it in an investment vehicle that gives me 10% compounded interest annually over 10 years, this could be 1 million. So 1 million is good money. Depending on its value in the next 10 years, because of the fluctuations, things to do with the monetary, fiscal, property, all those kind of things, 1 million shilling is something that you can actually do something substantial with it. Meaning, this cup of coffee or this cup of tea could be a vacation at some point. No, because it's giving you like 100,000 per year. So if I'm doing that every day, from January 1st to the end of the year, if I'm putting this money here, I can actually afford to take myself out on vacation without breaking the bank or getting into debt for that, So I want you to see it. I want you to see it that way. There's something called time value of money. Please do not neglect. Please do not ignore that small amount of money that you feel is worth nothing. Wealthy people don't do that. That's why they get so angry when they feel like you're stealing. As minute as it may sound, that little money, they get so angry because they understand this concept of time value of money. And I want you to start understanding it if you haven't done so far. Do not please respect that little coin that you have, because it could be your conduit to your wealth creation journey. Now, we were talking about image versus wealth creation. And we looked at that picture of a man in a nice suit, and we had the engineer, all right? So now I will ask another question, okay? On the screen, I have two pictures. I have a very nice apartment, rental apartment, and I also have a residential house, all right? So I want to ask a question. If you're thinking as an investor, which property do you think the investor will choose? Because we have to start thinking like investors. I want to see that in the chat box. So as an investor, which side will the investor lie? So there's the, so Chuma, you're saying the rental, okay. Timothy, you're saying asset, all right. Justin, you're saying asset. And while you're answering, I also want you to think about it this way. It feels so nice when you're living in your own house. It feels so nice when you don't have the landlord always following you around for that rent that you need to pay, because we saw that's one of the responsibilities that we need to take care of when we start getting our money. So once you're thinking about it, what do you think is in the mind of the investor? Is it in the rental or in the house, in their own house? Do you think the investor is really lying towards the rental or the residential? Let me just see. So Timothy, yes, asset. Justin, asset. There's one that I haven't read. I think I have read all of them. Yes. So investors, there's a question that investors usually ask. So every time we're sitting down with a fund manager, and the fund manager comes with all possibilities that we could explore in order for us to grow our income, So the investor usually asks, what's in it for me? It's not what is the return, what's in it for me. So as an investor, I want to know, yes, over and above the money that's going to come, the rate of return on investment that I'm going to make. I also want to know what's in it for me, So in this case, they'll probably think about their children, they'll think about their parents, they'll think about the people that they support, they'll think about themselves. So what's in it for me? That's a question that investors ask. So wealthy people do the same. Before they make any investment, they usually ask, what's in it for me? All right. And because now I see people in the chat. So Philemon, you're saying asset rental because each year you're sure of something. I usually use one of my apartments for residential for some time. Then I acquire something for my family. This is nice. Yes, you're very right. So investors usually ask, what's in it for me? All right. So people who want to invest in property, what they usually do is they don't mind starting with the rental, right? They don't mind. So they'll probably build 2 floors, live in one of the units, rent the other, use the proceeds that they're getting from the other unit to grow this apartment until completion, and then now start building their own house. It might take time. It will take time, but that is their goal. So for every investment, at Centonomy, we usually advocate for goal-based investing. So this investor will say, by the time I retire, my goal is to have a rental property and also live comfortably in my house. So I will ask, do you think it's free? If you build your nice mansion, do you think it will be free for you to live in that house? It's yours. Do you think it's free for you it will be free for you to live in that house? Do you think it's free for you to live in your own house? I want to see that in the chat box. Do you think it's free for you to live in your own house? So you have this nice mansion, a 5-bedroom, 4 baths, in a very nice gated community. Your wife is happy, your husband is happy, your children are happy, they're playing around. If you look at the one on the screen, there's some trees, meaning the environment there is very suburby, green grasses, so the children will definitely enjoy playing there. The house looks very nice, very nice. Do you think it's free for you to live in your own house? I want to see that in the chat box. Yes. So Shadrach, you're saying yes. Why? Why do you think it's free? Lemon, you're saying no, it will not be free because there is light bills, water bills, and other government taxes that allows you to still be in possession. That's very correct. That's very right. The only thing that you have been able to eliminate in purchasing the house is that rent that you were supposed to be paying at the end of the month. That's the only thing that you have eliminated from that equation. But it will cost you money to maintain that house. It will cost you money to pay for the electricity bills of that house. It will cost you money for things like land rates and other taxes that the government might impose in that kind of investment. All right. So what investors do, they will start with the rental, just like I've said. Once they're finished with the rental, they will now start building their own house. And then by the time they're retiring, the proceeds that they get from the rental income will support their staying in that mansion that they have built. So they are balancing both ends of the spectrum. Yes, it might take time. It feels very nice to live in your own house. It feels very nice even if you're able to do that as early as possible, but it will cost you at the end. And let me tell you something, in retirement, your biggest enemy will be cash flow. You do not and you cannot afford to retire asset rich, cash flow poor. Cash flow will be your greatest friend in retirement, because at that point you don't have the strength to wake up every day and go to work. At that point you're very fragile. You're probably dealing with a disease here and there that come with old age. So you need cash flow, and rental income is one of the cash flows that most people try and get themselves into, because they are guaranteed of income at the end of the month. This income will support their staying in the house that they have built. This income will actually even build that house, will support and sustain them in staying in that house, and will support their lifestyle in retirement. Because cash flow, you cannot afford to retire asset rich, cash flow poor. Even to date, like our I don't want to call them ancestors. No, that's way back. Our grandfathers, our grandmothers, sometimes even our parents, they have huge tracts of land, but they don't have the cash flow. So that's why now we are paying black tax, because we are supporting their lifestyle in old age. And it's not that they are poor, they are not poor. They probably own so many assets, and in the African setup, land is usually the go-to asset that back then that people would actually ascribe to, So they have land here, there, and that's a fixed asset. It's very hard for you to liquidate that asset. So in the event of an emergency, you trying to get a buyer to buy that land so that you can support this emergency, it does not make sense. So you need cash flow. You need to have cash flow, money that's circulating in and out of your house, or in and out of your pocket, because it's going to be your greatest friend in retirement. And you'll actually break that cycle of black tax, because now your kids won't even have to keep on sending you money unless they want. Because even now, if my parents ask me for money, I will send them, but it is not a mandate that I have to keep on doing this every month, because we were able to help each other get to that point where there's cash flow, there's money that's going in and out of their pocket. So unless I feel that I need to say thank you, I'll send them some money, but that's not something that is fixed somewhere. All right. So please, once you find yourself in this level of life, please try and think as an investor. Even as we go about our wealth creation journey, always ask yourself, what would an investor ask? And investors usually ask, what's in it for me? So it's not about the return on the investment, it's about every other thing that encompasses that investment that you make, including the risk. So once they understand this is what I'm getting myself into, then it's easier for them to build up a mitigation plan. So in the event this doesn't happen, do I have a plan for this? Yes. In the event that plan B doesn't work also, is there a contingency plan? Yes. Then now they can say yes to the investment. So it's a very gradual but sure process. So even as you're thinking about, or as you're cultivating that mindset, that money mindset now, always ask yourself, what would an investor ask? And an investor usually asks, what's in it for me? So even as you're speaking to fund managers, if people come and talk to you about bonds and whatnot, always ask them, what's in it for me? Let them explain to you in simple terms, the cons and the pros of this investment from an investor's perspective, not from that return perspective. That's usually just one of the expected outcomes of any investment, but there are certain hidden outcomes that most fund managers do not communicate. So you want to get the whole picture so that it's easier for you to know, do I have the capacity to get myself into this investment? All right. So now, since we're talking about investment, principle number 3. Now here's where we look at investment in detail. All right. So principle number 3 is focus on assets. All right. So principle number 1 was pay yourself first, because we established most of the income that we're getting goes to offset other responsibilities, and we end up forgetting ourselves in the process. Then we go to principle number 2, track your spending. So how then do we know that we have a poor habit with money, or we have a poor relationship with money? You know, because there's something called my relationship with money and the lifestyle dilemma, and we did that exercise of the money in a suit and the engineer. All right, and we looked at image versus wealth creation. How does that look like? Then now principle number 3 is assets, because we want, once we have saved that one, we have saved, we have taken care of the emergencies. Now we want to build that wealth. We want to get to that point where we can say we are wealthy. All right. So deep down in your heart, you know the goal that you have. The goal that you have, your investment goal, you have that goal. Be it rental property, for example, be it the paperless investment, talked about the bonds and the treasury bills. Investment usually have 3 key pillars, right? So anytime you're thinking about investing, anytime you're thinking about putting money somewhere, each investment should serve either one, at the very least one. There are those that serve 2, there are those that serve 3. So investments that protect your investment. So this one we say capital preservation, right? So one of the pillars is protect your investment, and it's called capital preservation. All right, what do I mean by this? So let's say your goal is to take, you have just gotten a baby, and this baby will be starting their school in the next 4 years. All right. So you've just gotten a baby, and you know now that is a responsibility that you'll have to take care of until when they are able to take care of themselves. So it's a long life responsibility, and it starts the schooling journey starts 4 years after they are born. All right. So your goal is to take them to a certain school, because ideally you want your kids to have the best education. All right. So you have 4 years. And I said your greatest consideration when it comes to investing is time and the financial cost. So we've established the time. We have 4 years. So now, which school do you want to take our child? We've established the school is this. It's probably going to cost us per year around 300,000. No, that's a lot. Let's say $30,000, right? So it's going to cost us around $30,000 to take this child to this school that year. So right now I have the $30,000. So the baby has been born this year. God has been great. I have the 30,000 that I intend to use to take the child to school in the next 4 years. So the investment vehicle that I put this money has to guarantee that it will protect this 30,000. By the time I need it in 4 years, I will get my $30,000 so that I can be able to take my child to school, right? So an example of this investment is treasury bonds, the bonds. So now the bonds will protect that capital, because now you will put money there. You'll probably get, you buy a 4-year bond that will give you a coupon rate of 15%. So coupon rate is the interest rate, all right? So at the end of that 4 years, you will still get your $30,000, but now there's some goodies here. I said these investments either serve at the very least one. So bonds serve 2. So there's the income and you some income. So that's another pillar, income, right? because now you'll be getting, and they usually pay, in Kenya, the bonds usually pay you twice in a year. So if the coupon rate is 15%, you'll get 7%, 7.5%, and you'll get 7.5%, depending on the type of bond. So if you bought it in March, you're supposed to be paid in March, so you'll be getting the 7.5% in March and the other one in September, right? At the end of the 4 years, I will get my $30,000 plus the last 7.5%. So these 4 years, I have been getting some income from this investment, but it has protected my capital that I had intended to use to take the child to school. So now that's an investment vehicle that helps, and it goes down to what you want. You need to have a goal, then work backwards. That's how investment works, right? Now, the other pillar is gain value over time. So this is where land comes in, all right? Growth, we usually say, we call it growth. So number one, protect your income. That one is capital preservation. Number two, earn you some income. That one is income. Number three, gain value over time. This one is growth. So there's investment vehicles that will appreciate your money in a very good way. And one of them is real estate, all right? So that's what our parents back then really understood, because they'll buy a piece of land, probably at $10,000. By the time they want to sell it, probably valued at about $70,000. You know, so they are able to understand that this investment, my goal for this investment is I want something that grows over a period of time. So that's another angle that someone will take using the same goal. Let's say the baby has been born today, and looking at my income, I can be able to take care of this child's education effortlessly, but I want them to go to university abroad, all right? So my goal is to take them to university outside the country. I probably want them to go to the UK or something, okay? So the only way I can be able to do that is by understanding when they will be going to the university, time, right? How much time do I have? So they'll probably be going there 18 years from now. So I have established the time. I have 18 years, okay? Where am I taking them to? Which university, you know, which university do I want them to go? So I have established this university. It's probably going to cost me the whole entire university education will probably cost me, give me a figure. How much do you think that will cost us if you're taking our child to a university based in the UK? How much? Let me see that in the chat box. How much do you think that would cost us if you're taking this child to the university in the UK to cover their education, to cover their lifestyle there? $2,000. Philemon, is that correct? Did you mean to type that? For the whole duration of their university there. So 17,000 pounds. How much is that in dollars, please? If we are working with that currency. So for the whole duration that they will be there in the UK, so it's probably a degree. So they'll probably be there for 4 or 5 years thereabouts. I need to know where they will be staying. I need to know, support their food, basically support them entirely until they're done with education. So $24,000, all right, and more. So let's work with the $30,000 again. So looking at my, the baby has been born. Looking at my income, I can be able to comfortably support their education up until that point where they're supposed to go to university without investing here and there, or I have other investments that support us. So we probably bought a bond. So we are guaranteed that, you know, they will be supported here and there. But then we want to take them to a university that's outside the country, and we have established it's also going to cost us the 30,000. All right. So now we purchase land that, looking at the appreciation value, and this is something that you really need to understand in your country. I think for Kenya is the rate of return, average rate of return for real estate is about 6% per year, or so. I'm not sure. They're about 6%. So now you look at the average rate of return on rental property in your country. This is information that you can get from Ministry of Lands. This is information that you can get from professionals such as surveyors. We call them urban planning specialists. Those people who understand this kind of things. So you buy land that appreciates more. More than that rate of the average rate of return. So if you're buying land in a place where in the next 10 years or in the next 5 years, the land would have appreciated by about 70%, then that will be a very good investment. So now you project that thing we call time value of money. So you work backwards. So you say, this is the amount of money that I need to have by the time this child is going to university, all right? I will put my money in an investment vehicle that will grow, right? I don't want the income bit. I don't want here and there. I just want something that will grow exponentially so that I am able to effortlessly support my children my child in the university, all right? So I buy land. And then looking at the average rate of return for that rental investment, is probably about 12. That's a good one. So I buy a couple of lands here and there. By the time we're getting to that point, I probably have a year or so before they go to the university. Now I start liquidating that asset because land is a fixed asset. And when you're working around, there's something that we'll also share. We'll also share with you a personal balance sheet and a budget. So if you look at your balance sheet, there's a place where you have to write down your liquid assets and your fixed assets. So liquid assets could be now you have an emergency fund. That's an asset. It's a liquid asset, So now land is a fixed asset. So by the time I have 1 year before they now go to the university, now I start liquidating those assets so that I get my money and I take them to the university. Ideally also, by the time I'm getting to that point, that land may have grown exponentially. I may have probably built a rental there. So whatever income that's getting from the rental is what I'm using to take my child to school. So now that's being a smart investor. So you have bought the investment vehicle, which is land. The land has appreciated in value. You have reinvested back into that asset. So you have put in a rental property there. So now the land is growing and there's income that's coming from the rental property. So in the event you want to sell all of them, then your money would have grown exponentially. So that's what I want to communicate about investing. So even as you're thinking about investment, please ensure that you have these three pillars at the back of your mind. Protect your investment. So if a fund manager comes and says, I want you to put this money here, could be the bank that has given you this product and say, your money will grow. Ask yourself, what is my goal for this money? Do I want my capital at the end? Yes. Does it give me that guarantee that it's going to protect my investment? Yes or no, And let no one tell you that there is no risk. Every investment is a risk. Even life itself is a risk. There's always a risk element to it. You just need to ask yourself that question that investors ask, what's in it for me, right? So if it's protecting it's giving you capital preservation, then put your money there if that is your goal. If you want it to give you some income, then put your money there because that is your goal. But have those two things. Have the time. Your goal should be guided by those two things, the time and the financial cost. If you want your money to gain value over time, by all means, and you've gotten an investment vehicle that does this, put your money there. But never lose sight of your goal. Because once you do it now, then you will be in a frenzy. You will be operating in a very cluttered environment. So those three pillars will start you off in your wealth creation journey, in building a money mindset, in ensuring that you are on a very well orchestrated path towards your wealth creation. So if you haven't started, please pay yourself first. Always set aside money for the savings and the investing that you're going to do. Number 2, track your spending. Track your spending. Track your spending. It's a very daunting task, I know, but there are apps that actually do the analysis for you. And we will be sharing a framework that we usually share. That one, please start tracking your spending. Number 3, focus on assets. So when it comes to investing, focus on assets, and your assets have to be goal-based, all right? And the goals that you need to have is either one, protect your investing. That I said that is capital preservation. Number two, earn you some income. That one is income, and I gave an example. Number three, gain value over time. So the example that we have used is for learning purposes. So now you need to introspect and look within. What is my goal? If I were to invest X amount of money here, what is my goal? Then now put a time factor to it and a financial factor to it. How much time do I have to achieve this goal? How much money should I have in order for me to achieve this goal? Once you get those two things clearly, then understanding the investment vehicle that you need to put your money in will be very clear, and you will have the right questions to ask any fund manager. And once you understand this, then you will definitely be a wealthy person. That definition of wealth, you will live that life. You will have cultivated that the ability to live the lifestyle that you want without having to work. All right. So basically, what we are talking about here is financial planning. When it comes to money, always have a clear vision. Always know, what do I want? The definition of wealth, the lifestyle that you want, you need to know what you want. So if I want to live a very wealthy life, if I want to have my own house at some point, I want to have it will have parking for 5 cars. Be extravagant around your vision. Go overboard. Think about every possibility and every good thing that you want to have. Then now tie that vision into a goal. So if I want to have that house, then my goal is I want to have that house in the next 10 years. I want to have a house that's probably going to cost me about X amount of money, right? So now I have a goal. Then now I go to the next step. Now I have to action, all right? So by actioning is how much do I have right now, and what do I need to do now so that I can be able to get to this goal within this time that I've set aside. So that is financial planning in a nutshell. I was talking about our classes at St. Bonomi. So we have 12 classes. So this is a class that gives you everything and anything that you need to know about money, right? And it has to start from the mindset. So if you look at module 1, that's a whole mindset class where we look at your relationship with money. Now we put you in the driver's seat so that you're able to take control of your finances. And how do you do that? By first understanding in this journey of wealth creation, what mindset am I using? Am I operating from a scarcity point of view, or am I operating from an abundant point of view? If it is scarcity, then we shift that mindset, because that is our mission. To shift that mindset so that you become purposeful and you're able to live an abundant life, right? Then we look at time value of money. We look at debt. We look at living abundantly. We look at investment in different scopes. If you want to go the shares way, how do shares work? You want to buy stock, all those kind of things. We look at protecting your money, insurance, estate planning, because there's no point of us working so hard to generate this wealth and we don't put, again, that contingency plan that, this is my estate planning. I want the will, the trust, everything, all those things. Then there's tax. We need to understand the legalities of these things, because if not, then we will put us at a disadvantage. And then now build a financial plan. The financial plan that I have just summarized into 3 points: the vision, the goal, and the action. So now we build it. Now we work backwards. We build this and form a strategy that will get you to that point. And then looking at the investment groups, because the biggest source of our income is from the investment groups. Your 10 friends have come together. You are saving. Everyone is contributing X amount of money every month, or every week, or every day. We are saving this, we are investing this. So how does that work? So this is something that we usually do, and it's called the Economy 101. This is the personal financial management program. Anything and everything that you need to know about money, you will know it there. And then allow me to just talk about this book, because it changed my life and it changed the life of so many people who are on their wealth creation journey. So this is a book that was written by our founder. Our founder is called Mureithi. So, and it's written in a way were real stories of people who were able to shift their mindset and started generating wealth. So they are giving their stories. At what point did they now start thinking that I need to change the way I'm doing things? And how did they start actualizing it? And how did they get to a point where they were able to build a very successful financial plan that worked for them? So if you're able to purchase this book, if you're able to screenshot this, please feel free to do that. Feel free to purchase this book. It changed my life, and I want it to change yours. So at this point, I want to welcome the questions before I hand it over to Wairi. If you have any questions, please ask them. As we look at the entrepreneur program now, I gave a summary of this before I started. So these are the things that we handle when it comes to business, because where we get our income varies. So it could be from the salary, then that the personal financial management program makes sense. If you are an entrepreneur, then we have to ensure that you're building a successful and a sustainable business, and your business needs to be viable and it needs to scale. So if there is any question, please ask before I hand it over to the LBD team. If you want to talk, please raise your hand. You will be unmuted and you'll be able to ask your question. All right. So I'm guessing everyone has understood. This was definitely a very simple class then. If there are no questions, I want to believe that we have been able to understand these principles that I have shared. So even as we're building a money mindset in Africa, those three principles: pay yourself first, track your spending, and focus on assets. And all this information, you can get it online. If you Google Centonomy, this is information that you can get. You can interact with our content. You will see a couple of videos of myself talking about some of these things, TV interviews. So there's an array of places where you can be able to get this information, even as you're building that money mindset. And I want to tell all of you that it is very possible. So many people have been able to do this. So many people have been able to generate wealth. So many people have been able to live abundant lives. And it is just by being purposeful and making that commitment and changing that mindset and operating from an abundant point of view. So it is possible, and I wish you guys the very best. In the event that you have any questions, in the event that you feel like you have any questions in the process of you going about this, allow me to just leave my email here. Please feel free to ask me this question. I'll be able to assist you. So that's my email. Please feel free. So you're saying, Philemon, thank you. We had a nice time. So if I may ask, so how can us deal with government tax that we are excluded, but we are still asked to pay by corrupt officials? So now here's the thing. Unfortunately for Africa, and that's something that we are also dealing with here in Kenya, the systems don't work. You know, if we know this is what needs to be happening on the ground, but now, unfortunately, because of corrupt people, things just don't work, and that's what Kenyans are fighting for right now. So it got so bad in Kenya to a point where the youth, people are saying the Generation Z, which is true. The youth of this country felt that it is not fair for them to experience this at such a young age. You know, it had gotten to a point where we felt our leaders are really not taking care of us. And it got to that bad point where now people even now hit the street. And this is something that started online. On TikTok, that's why social media is a very good platform for information. So it started on TikTok, people airing out their grievances. And a lot of it had to do with the finance bit, because now, if you're increasing the tax, you know, the ripple effect of overtaxation is you are reducing the disposable income of these people, and you're increasing their expenses, you know. So some of these policies, together with the one that you have just mentioned, they are there. We know that they are there, but not because of the corruptness. some things just don't work. So what we need to do is just find a smart way to work around it. I know there's so many organizations that advocate for the rights of people living with disabilities. If you are able to get them to support you, I don't know which country you're in, maybe you could send me an email and then I'll try and get an expert who will be able to guide you or assist you. But there's so many people who help. They don't have to be activists. They are government affiliated organizations that are put aside to ensure accountability and to ensure that the systems are working and we are able to get what we pay our taxes for. It could also be an organization that will air out, these are some of the injustices that you are experiencing, so that we are able to provoke the change that we want to see. So I've seen you're in Cameroon. Feel free to just send me an email. I will try and get you assistance so that you're able to be helped. But the reality on the ground is that this is so unfortunate, and it's not just happening in your country. Even in Kenya, that is what people are fighting for, and it has gotten to a point where now it's the youth that are hitting the streets now. It's not our parents. The parents have taken the back seat. Now the youth are taking things into their own hands and provoking the change that they want to see. And again, it all goes down to the mindset, because clearly these are people that want to live an abundant life, so they have an abundant mindset. They have sighted that distant horizon, and they want to get themselves there. But now, because of the corruption and everything else, there's a bit of struggle, and they're finding it hard to get there. So now I feel like some of these things deserve a lot more conversation, not only on the ground level, but also on the policy level. We need to have discussions with policymakers, people who advocate for the rights of persons living with disabilities, and also other things as well. All right. So as I hand over to Waire, I want to retaliate that I will be sharing with you a couple of things. You will all receive a presentation of this session. You also receive notes. So I mentioned the spending tracker. I will also be sharing with you a realistic budget that will help you. Remember that practical activity that we did with the pillars. So now a budget that will help you to understand what are my essentials, what is essential but not important. So things that you can actually not do them every month. That way now you're able to, whatever you're supposed to save to spend that month, you're saving it or you're investing it, Then I will also be sharing with you I said the budget, I said the spending tracker, and I also said the presentation. A recording of this, I think Waire will talk about it. A recording of this will be shared also to the LBD team. I believe Waire will talk about this as I hand it over to the LBD team. Other than that, thank you so much for engaging with me. Thank you so much for interacting with me. This has been a very insightful session. This has been a very great session. I feel honored that I was able to be part of this wonderful summit. I will be following the conversations online. If you see me there, please just interact with me online. I will try and see if I can find you on Instagram or on LinkedIn. If you see me, just say hi. Let us interact on social media. Let us share information and let us grow our network. Other than that, let me hand it over to the LBD team. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, don't go off yet. Don't go off yet. Just a few more minutes. Wow. Don't go off yet. Thank you so much. So we usually do a lot in LBD to thank our speakers who come in. So maybe some of you must have shared some emojis, but we still need more emojis. So if you can just start bringing in the emojis to appreciate Kathleen, just be bringing it in. Be saying thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Kathleen. We really appreciate it. Just bring it in. Because we really appreciate those emojis right now. And you have to make it so nice so she knows she's loved. Because I wasn't expecting her to stay this long, and I was like, oh my God. No, she really brought out everything she She brought it out. So just keep appreciating her and say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
I feel the love.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kathleen. I really appreciate this. Really, really appreciate this. It was a wow moment for me. As I said, I was not expecting us to come this far or stay this long, but somehow, you know, it was worth it. I must admit, it was worth it. And I really want to appreciate you again and again. Appreciate the centenary. And concerning the writing of what did you said something about writing? Yes, I do write my expenditures. I have a book. I don't have an app for it, although I know about apps, but somehow I think I'm just this traditional kind of girl. I like to write. I like to write a lot. I have a lot of books I used to write different things. So I prefer to just write than use my iPad or use one app or two apps, stuff like that. So yes, so it's really worth it for us to be able to hear it again on how the rich behave and what makes the rich wealthy and what makes the poor still remain poor. You know,
Yes.
yeah. And sometimes when you were speaking, I was feeling it seems that the rich are stingy people. But I think there's a difference between being stingy and being disciplined, especially financial discipline. There's a difference that, especially when you talked about how they take receipts of everything they spend. You know, how I think I need to work on that. I started it, but I stopped. So I need to work on that. How they take receipt on everything they spend. So it's a financial discipline. Thank you, Centonomy. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for this. As I said, we didn't plan. I think you went above and beyond, which I really want to give you a kudos for, because I was like, time has gone. I can't pay more. I don't have more to pay. I don't have more bills. Well, thank you for going above and beyond. And I believe everybody, I was even thinking everybody was going to leave before this time, but I still see some persons are still hanging around. It means that this knowledge is important that you have shared today. It's quite important. And I really believe we'll make good use of it. And before you end it, I just want to talk to everyone here. It's not, as I said, it's not just about listening and hearing. Kathleen has poured out so much that you may not find anywhere. Even if she says it's online, you may not be able to gather all the pieces together in 2 hours and make something out of yourself, but you have gotten something. And some persons may say, oh, I have a disability. I don't earn enough to save or to invest. As she talked about the $150 she talked about on how you spend money on coffee or maybe biscuit or burger or something. And she talked about so many things. And just in case, this is also a knowledge in the future, because we are trying to build people that will be able to create wealth, generate wealth, and also manage their wealth. So this is not a knowledge to throw away. You can save it, you can use it, and when that time comes, you will make valid decisions for yourself. So don't say, I don't need this. You need it. Everyone needs it. If not, we will all stay in one position in Africa and we may not be able to rise beyond this. So thank you once more, Ma'am Kathleen. I truly appreciate this. And I know there is more.
Thank you.
And we'll need it as time comes by. Thank you once more.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Allow me to just answer one question I've seen was in the Q&A tab. So Abdullah, you were asking, how do I start a business that I lack technical knowledge in? Information is power. So, and there's nothing new under the sun. Just research. One thing about me being a research analyst is you get to pay attention to the details. That's the thing. There's nothing new under the sun. So research, ask as many questions, do market research. You remember when I was talking about human-centered design? So people that could really be your potential customers, ask them questions that you would want them to give feedback on for the business that you want to start. That way you get a little bit of information. Ideally, please do not shy away from getting a partner that has the technical skills or the information that you will leverage on or that you will find useful in your business. So there's so many options to go about it. There's so many ways that you can work around it. So I wish all the best, and may that business be successful.
Yeah, thank you. So this meeting is officially ended for today because it's been a wonderful, amazing time. Let's go and think through money and let's start having a mindset of money right now. Thank you once more, Kathleen. So we can end it right now. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye, Kathleen.
Bye. Take care. Bye.